Hey, Christian, what's going on?
Yo, what is up?
Oh, I'm just digging deep for the false motivation.
CH.
CH in the house.
You've been pouring a lot of time and energy into your, what do you call those things? Those morning inspirational sauna times?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe that's where all your energy's going.
I haven't really named them.
We're just getting whatever's left over here. On the speaking of which, one of the Old Fashioned Dad podcasts hosts was in your morning sessions not too long ago.
Yes, I'll have to make that a highlight on my Instagram.
Telling some bad dad jokes.
Oh, is there anything but bad dad jokes?
Yeah.
They're so bad, they're good.
What do you call a fly with no wings? A walk. Drum roll. Didn't.
Oh my goodness, we just lost half our listeners there. We couldn't afford this.
So we're down to 0 listeners.
Yeah, got 3 left.
Sir, I think we're both low energy today.
Yeah, but we can drum it up. You know.
Think we can rally?
As Tony Robbins says, create your own energy.
Okay, well, Tony Robbins, we are gonna create some energy. So
That's right.
Here we go. We are the Old Fashioned Dad podcast, seeking to love dads and men through the person and work of Jesus Christ, while entering into tough conversations on marriage, mental health, sex, and parenting, all while sipping good whiskey. All right. See, I'm dealing with a bruised tailbone.
Yeah.
Actually, it kind of hurts to sit right now.
Right.
I have no idea why I bruised it.
That's weird.
This is just like what's going to happen between 40 and the rest of the end of my life, right?
Right, just random bruises and sprained this and pulled that. You don't know why.
and nothing exciting caused those things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've had some small victories.
Okay. Tell me about them, please.
I haven't pulled any muscles by sneezing in the last year, so that's exciting.
Did that actually happen?
It's kind of a not uncommon thing for me. I'll just stretch my neck and I pull a muscle in my back. You're just like, what? I wasn't even exercising. That didn't start happening until after 39, 40. So
40 seems to be the magic number where your body's just like, all right, we've had it with you.
Yeah, it's a reminder. You're mortal.
Immortal.
What are we talking about, man?
Well, do we have to jump into that just right away?
Yeah, because I hate when people are rambly, and I don't want to be too rambly, especially if it's low energy.
We're not on the too rambly side just yet. Another couple of minutes we will be.
What are we drinking here anyway?
Well, we are drinking a delicious brown smoothie called J.T.S. Brown. This is actually a really good bottle. Very affordable. You pick it up at Total Wine for like $20.
Yeah. It's not bad for $20.
Made by Heaven Hill Distilleries.
Where's that out of?
That's down in Bardstown, Kentucky.
Kentucky. They make some bourbon there.
They do make some bourbon there. They're also, the other moniker that they have is the bourbon capital of the world. So when you say they make some bourbon there, I say, yeah, they make some bourbon there. Anywho,
I feel schooled.
Yep, you should, in the most constructive way, right?
Yes.
You feel very... Anywho, J.T.S. Brown goes down smooth, 100 proof, bottled in bond. If you don't know those terms, and you've been listening to this show for a while, I'm sorry, Google them.
Google it.
I know that you're smokeless in Seattle right now.
Yep, just wasn't feeling it today.
I hear that.
It's very rare, but...
I've had those moments on our podcast where I'm like, I'm not feeling a cigar.
Yeah.
Today I am. The wife's out of town. I've been on dad duty for the last 72 hours.
Sometimes the secondhand smoke is just more gratifying.
Let me blow that in your face.
It's kind of like theater popcorn, right?
Yeah.
It smells better than it actually tastes.
Yeah, you get it in your body and you're just like, this was a terrible choice.
Yeah, that was a bad decision. I should have just smelt it.
So I don't know much about this particular cigar. It's the wrapper on it, I don't know who makes it. Maybe it's coming from the Van Winkle family, but it's Pappy Van Winkle cigar.
Gotta get that.
There we go.
Right
Let me get it right there.
Pappy Van Winkle.
Pappy Van Winkle. The funny thing about, I was having a conversation with Pappy Van Winkle.
Really? He seems like he'd be really old.
He is. I was having a conversation with the ghost of Pappy Van Winkle. No. I was having a conversation with somebody in the spirits industry about Pappy Van Winkle, and literally that family is just slapping their name on anything and just selling it. It could be like Pappy Van Winkle socks, Pappy Van Winkle underwear, Pappy Van Winkle bricks.
Well, if you're going for the old-timey nostalgia, it's got a name for it.
I mean, it makes sense with Pappy Van Winkle whiskey and then maybe cigars, but beyond that,
maybe
like,
some pomade.
yeah, Pappy Van Winkle meats.
I'm a Dapper Dan man.
What's your T-bone steak there? Oh, Pappy Van Winkle. Really? They make a nice cut? Yeah, it's not too bad. Okay. So, I recently had an opportunity, switching gears here.
Okay, gears.
Switching gears,
Yep.
gear switching, to be a guest on the Honest Cigar Experience.
There's some good blokes.
They are some good blokes.
Is that a good term or bad? I'm not English.
It's a good
Not
term.
British.
It's a good, it depends. Are we friendly with them?
We're friendly.
Then they're good blokes.
Okay, good blokes.
Yeah.
Fine chaps.
Yeah, if we weren't friendly with them, maybe we'd call them wankers.
Wankers, yes.
Yeah.
Which I didn't find out what that actually meant until I watched.
Lock, stock, and two smoking barrels.
No, Ted Lasso.
Love me some Ted Lasso.
Oh, that's so funny.
If we have anybody in the UK that's listening to us, I'm deeply sorry, and also not, at any rate. So I was recently on their podcast, and they were doing a series on marriage. And they asked me to come on and kind of give 5 steps, 5 tips to jumpstart a marriage. Which, at first when I...
Now, by jumpstart, you mean like it's stalled, you've been married for a few years, and you want to get back on the right track, or like newly married?
I mean, honestly, it could be anywhere on the,
Spectrum.
Marriage spectrum, like newlywed to like veteran. It's just like the marriage is kind of, maybe that's a good word to use, stalled out a bit.
Okay.
For one reason or another. So I spent, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it sounds like something that would be helpful for me. 15 years in, not bad.
Are you 15 in?
Not great, yep.
I'm 14 in. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. My,
Some catching up to do.
your marriage is, in one more year can officially have a driver's license, 16.
Never thought about that. Scary.
It can't legally drink though.
Not yet.
Anywho, so at first I was like, I thought about it. So Chad and Tyler of the Honest Cigar Experience, down in Tennessee, doing a good job. Kind of, they started their podcast around the same time we did. Just kind of a similar motif. Guys in the backyard, have an honest conversation about
Freezing their ass off. At least this episode.
this episode. We're freezing our ass off. They're still nice and warm and toasty down there.
Son of a... Yeah.
But when I heard that that's what they wanted me to come up with, I was like, man, this feels like a lot of like pop psychology, some drive-by psychology nuggets. Just listen better, do some deep breathing. That's like initially where my brain went at first. But I was like, no, and the guys, they dig into the word, they dig into each other and guy stuff. So I was like, all right, well, what should I come up with? So I'll give you the kind of the 30,000 foot overview of what I came up with. The first was, and you can go listen to this episode. It's like
You should.
You should.
Which episode is it? Which episode number?
Oh man, so they just released. I don't remember the episode number. We'll put it in the show notes. But
I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah.
He'll put it in the
I'll
show.
put it in the show
I
notes.
won't put anything in the show notes. But they recently released an episode on honor, and so it's the episode just before that.
Okay.
So it's like their second most recent episode. At any rate, so what I came up with, and maybe what I want to focus on today, out of the 5 points I came up with, are points number 3 and 4.
Yes,
Okay.
3 and 4. Those are good points.
Those are very, very
Great
good points. Yeah. So point 1 was know what or why your marriage is not functioning well. Don't just simply say it's not working.
Sin. That's my default answer.
Don't be general, but know why. Like spend some time evaluating.
Sure. Okay.
The second one, which I think would be a good one for another episode, is don't make happiness your goal in your marriage. Yeah.
But what? Why would you get married then? I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, again, for another episode.
Another episode.
Right?
It's a whole episode.
It's a whole
I
episode.
think we've actually done an episode on that.
But
close.
it'd be worth revisiting because this time around it actually might be more coherent.
It couldn't have been any less coherent than our first few episodes.
So the third point is protect your marriage, which seems like kind of an obvious one. Seems like an obvious one.
Christians, it does, but even then.
I even think some non-Christians kind of have an idea that they have to protect their marriage. Maybe not to the extent that, Christians are called to. But the fourth one is steward your marriage. And now, on this show, we've used this word a lot, steward, and it is very uniquely a Christian term. But if you did hear it out of a Christian context, it would have been like a couple of hundred years ago when,
Sure.
That
When
was just more common.
stewarding was common parlance.
There you go. And nice big birth there.
Thank you.
Cheers. Yeah. And the fifth one, am I going to remember this? Oh, lead from a place of humility. So
it's like a servant leader, like Jesus.
Ooh. Oh, man, I better have a sip of whiskey.
Yeah.
This might be a quick episode, but
that's it. That's episode.
Servant leader, be Jesus. Okay, we'll talk to you later. Merry Christmas. It's not even Thanksgiving yet, is it?
Doesn't matter.
All right. Okay.
It's Christmas somewhere in the world. Is that how that works?
It's kind of a microaggression right now. So, the points that I wanted to land on today, because I thought it was worth covering. If you want to hear the full thing, go listen to the Honest Cigar Experience, that episode that I was on. And in general, actually listen to their most recent episode on honor. It was really good. They were talking about honor from a place of marriage, so I thought that was really good. Okay, so protect your marriage. Where does your mind go when I say that?
My mind goes to, it doesn't seem like a lot of people do that. And I just say that from told anecdotally, like it seems like you get to the 10 to 15, 18-year mark and marriages are dropping like flies, at least in my world. Like Christian, non-Christian, like infidelity, I'm not happy, I'm going to go do this other thing.
Don't you and I interact in the same worlds?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, I mean, maybe you're not, I don't know. It seems like it seems like every couple of days, oh, did you know so-and-so is getting divorced? They're separated, and I'm just like...
So-and-so had an affair.
Right.
Yeah.
And so my mind goes to that typically happens because the marriage wasn't protected. Because, you're not protecting your emotions, you're not protecting stuff that should be exclusively for your wife or your husband, and, you're open. Not maybe looking, but you're open, and baby steps are taken, and as lines are crossed, it gets easier to cross them again and again, deeper and deeper into enemy territory, and before you know it, you have an emotional affair, physical affair. You stop believing in Jesus because you're in sin, and your idea.
You got to change your theology,
sure,
so you don't feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, and typically, 95% of the time, from what I've seen, if someone starts having a crisis of faith, it's who are you sleeping with?
Yeah.
Like where's your sin? Where's your sexual sin that's leading you to reject your entire worldview in order to justify or make okay your bad moral choices?
Bro, you kind of brought the heat right there. You just kind of called like a lot of people out.
I've been seeing it a lot, and it's really disheartening.
Isn't it also frustrating? And maddening too.
It is frustrating. Well, and it's frustrating, but I also understand where that comes from, because like if I go to a lot of these conferences, and I could see how easy it would be if you're not protecting your time. You got drinking and people. You're not in the everyday mundane rut of taking your kid to school and making lunches and doing, like it could be real easy to kind of glamorize like this other person's so much more fun, or this group of people or whatever, and like forget about God, forget about your wife and kids and your commitments. And so I understand, but I mean that all the more, I understand that happens, but all the more reason to like protect that, like be grounded in the word that reminds you of God's truth and reminds you of God's goodness and of what he's called us to.
Have you ever seen, I'm just curious, like, as you're talking, have you ever seen, like, non-Christian couples, married couples, engage in, like, protecting their marriage? Have you ever seen that?
Probably. I mean, I don't know if they've used that language. I mean, in my experience, it's less prevalent, because usually in the Christian context, protecting your marriage would be like, I don't go on one-on-one business lunches or get drinks with someone of the opposite sex.
Yeah, right.
Well, Christians, I think, typically understand that. Non-Christians be like, why? What do you think is going to happen?
What's a big deal?
Not a big deal.
Yeah.
And all these not a big deal situations can go down a very bad road if you're not protecting yourself emotionally.
Yeah, I remember back when it was Vice President Pence.
Pence, he got all sorts of shit.
Yeah,
for,
he got a ton of flack for he wouldn't go be alone with another woman, and I think a lot of culture and I mean, I would assume that a lot of it comes from non-Christians. They viewed that as kind of almost sexist in a way.
Sure.
Which is interesting because from the Christian world, Christian point of view, it's like no, we want to act with integrity, and we recognize sin and we recognize temptation, and then we also don't want to give a bad testimonial about either person.
Sure, you avoid the appearance of evil or impropriety or whatever,
Right.
Well, especially a high public, high visibility person, it just makes sense. If you're high visibility like that, high net worth, high whatever, why would you put yourself in a situation where it's going to be one person's word against someone else's word?
Well,
and just that alone, which is more, I guess, social than sexual or sinful or whatever. But
and maybe this invokes a little bit about worldview. If your worldview isn't like God's the highest authority and your worldview is you're the highest authority, then it doesn't make sense to not just do what your desires want you to do.
Well, sure. I mean, you see that with people that have affairs or non-Christians that have affairs or say that, I'm not in love anymore. I'm not happy anymore.
Yeah, there's that piece, that happiness is the
right.
goal.
And then what do you commonly hear from the non-Christian friends? Good, pursue your heart.
Yeah.
Leave your husband.
Go.
Be authentic.
Yeah, be authentic.
Yeah. Pursue your dream and your hearts, which means, whatever you're feeling in that moment, don't judge if it's good or bad, just do it.
Yeah, don't. I mean,
doesn't matter who gets injured.
And that's what you see oftentimes in Hollywood, a high-profile relationship
Sure.
crashes and burns because there's some level of infidelity, some level of neglect.
Sure.
Most of the time it's infidelity.
Right.
And so for a little while, everybody kind of turns their eye to oh my gosh, here's this car wreck of a relationship that just exploded, and then literally a week later, the person that committed infidelity in that relationship is with somebody else, and all of a sudden everybody's praising that, and the title, the headlines are, well, they're really happy now. They really seem to be thriving.
Right. I mean, you don't want them to be unhappy, do you?
No.
But we'll even see that in, you talk about Hollywood couples, even Hollywood narratives and movies, that's not uncommon. I mean, you look at The Notebook that's praised as this big romantic thing, this woman left this amazing guy over passion for, what's his name?
The Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, the Ryan Gosling character, if you remember, the minor character in that was her fiance.
Yeah.
Who was this amazing guy, But
doesn't that say something a little bit about just, the human heart and just humanity in general, is that, we tend to make happiness our goal. I know this isn't what this episode is about, but it's touching on it. We make happiness our goal.
I mean, it's built into the DNA of the American dream, right?
Well, yeah, but I've been thinking about it. It's like kids are really okay with a Snickers bar, but or just even really happy with a Snickers bar. But if you offered them a really extravagant, well-made meal, they wouldn't want it. They would just look at it and go, no, I want the processed sugar. Sure. I want the stuff that's not good for me. Because I know that's going to be good for me. They look at the really well-made meal that will be tasty and probably more filling and probably more healthy, and they eat with their eyes. They go that's not good. But humanity generally is they seek happiness as if that's the deepest goal they can come up with, which I think is a sad commentary.
Sure. Well, and I do think it is a commentary on our current society, because 50 years ago wasn't that long ago, but 80 years ago,
there you go.
That wasn't really a thing in mainstream. It was fidelity and character and morals was the thing to be pursued.
Yeah.
Not your feelings and wherever the wind blows you. But even look at I touched on it, the kind of the DNA of the American dream. It's like the pursuit of I'm drawing a total blank here.
Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that idea, but now it doesn't say guaranteed happiness, just as the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
Now, obviously, as Christians, we think that looks differently, but as you're saying, like in current society, it is the titillating thing that's going to give you that endorphin, that dopamine hit.
Right.
That's why porn's such a big issue. That's why processed foods. That's like all this stuff that's not good for us, but gives us immediate gratification.
Right.
And immediately makes us feel good.
Well, okay.
It's fine.
So, I think why I went kind of diverged down this tangent a bit is because I think it ultimately leads back to protecting your marriage. So,
oh yeah, that's what we're talking about. Okay.
that is what we're talking about. Yeah, right. But like our worldviews craft our response on how we're going to protect our marriage. Okay. And if your worldview is you're the greatest authority and happiness is the greatest goal, and happiness is really relegated to a feeling, a good feeling, a dopamine hit, then that happiness goal will always move. Nothing will ever, you won't ever stay in a relationship, you won't ever stay in a career.
There's no stability because your emotions are all over the place.
Right, exactly. So, when it comes to Christians, we say, well, God is our highest authority. And so we look to him to understand how sex is supposed to be, the act of sexual intimacy is supposed to function. We look to God to understand how gender is supposed to be expressed. We look to God to understand relational responses and what worship is. And so we say God's the highest authority. And so when it comes to this issue of marriage, which God created, man didn't create marriage.
Yep.
But God created marriage. This idea of protection is really important, specifically as it pertains to men, pertains to husbands. And so my point in bringing this up is I think men are designed and built to protect and defend and go do those warlike things.
So sexist.
I know, right?
No, wait, sexy, that's what I meant.
Oh,
I get confused. Well, why do you think that? I think that too, but to maybe quantify it or whatever.
Why do I think that?
Yeah. Not to go down a rabbit hole too much.
I think you can go and read, just take Genesis up to Malachi. I think that's the entirety of the Old Testament. Yeah, Malachi. And you will see time and time again godly men defending and going to war and battling and protecting property, protecting their children, protecting their wives. Why am I blanking here? Protecting their wives and property and so on. So wives are not property, but they're protecting their wives, their families, their children at God's request. And it is something that they did rather well. It wasn't something that they're like, I really kind of struggle with this. It was something they did rather well. So I think that, and if you go back to Genesis chapter 1, God gave Adam the garden to steward, to look after, to protect, to name all the animals, and then he created Eve from the rib of Adam to be a helper, right? And so
from the side to serve alongside,
right?
To cultivate God's creation.
Sorry, you egalitarians, we're complimentary over here.
True story.
Boom. So when I look at modern day protection in a Christian context, in a marriage, I'm referring more to the internal threats to the marriage as opposed to the external threats. I think that most husbands, Christian husbands, would say, yeah, absolutely, I'd physically lay down my life for my wife, for my family. If a burglar, robber broke in and had a gun to me, yeah, I'd take that bullet for my wife. But the thing, or I protect my family against other external threats or what have you. But the thing is for the average Christian husband, that is a fairly low-risk thing to say, because most of us are not confronted by those kinds of external threats on a daily basis. Most of us are not.
So
Yeah.
So one thing you said kind of caught me off guard, and I want to make sure I understand this. So you're saying that when you're talking about protecting your marriage, you're not necessarily talking about external threats, you're talking about internal threats.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because when I think about protecting a marriage, I'm not thinking so much like, you hear a bump in the night and you get out your gun, even though that's important. I'm more thinking like protecting your marriage from intruders like other women.
Sure. I mean,
that kind of stuff.
That is an
which
aspect,
is external.
But I would still consider that external.
Okay.
Right. So
which seems much more prevalent than, much more likely to be able to have to defend against than a physical threat like an intruder or
yeah, and I
self-defense,
just use the intruder thing more as a as an example.
Sure.
But I run into a lot of husbands that's kind of their stance, like nobody's getting into my family, nobody.
Sure.
But
they don't take the care to protect their marriage internally between them and their wife.
Right. So the greatest threat to a marriage is the husband.
What about the wife?
The wife's. I'm not saying the wife is absolved of any responsibility, but if you look at the order of things in which God created, God put man in charge, and so, and if you go look at Ephesians 5, there's a lot of talk about submission and headship, and so, again, this is the way in which God designed the marriage to function, and so husbands need to be looking at, well, how am I protecting my marriage? Because really, the responsibility falls to me first. Women are not, wives are not absolved in their responsibility for making a marriage shitty.
Yeah.
But the husband's always going to have to report first.
So you're saying that God says that the husband is responsible for the condition of his family and marriage, and is to serve and lay down his life, just like Jesus laid down his life for the church. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that in Scripture or something?
It might be somewhere, let's see, Ephesians 5, in regards to, it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and laid his life down for the church.
That's kind of a big calling right there.
Kind of a big calling.
Kind of a big calling.
Yeah. And if you, anyways, it's in the Bible, go read it. Okay, so more often than not, we are protecting our marriage from our own sin. We're protecting the marriage from our own peculiarities that create distortion and create sinful responses.
Sure. Or in my case, having to be convicted and then repent and then have God redeem whatever that situation was.
Yeah. So when it comes to functioning in a marriage, I really think that, husbands, you really need to rethink this issue of protection. You're not protecting so much against external threats. Those are real, but you're protecting against internal threats. You need to be aware of your own sinful proclivities in the marriage. And that's why, I get to that point 5, leading through humility, because you have to lead from a place of repentance. You have to lead from a place of service and grace, and those things have to be in place for there to be adequate protection in the marriage. Anyways.
Word.
All right, moving on to stewardship, and then we'll probably wrap things up.
Yep, wrap it up.
Yeah, wrap it up. It's cold. I'm done with my cigar. Stewardship. So we've talked a lot about this. So this issue of stewardship in a marriage is an understanding that you don't own the marriage as a husband. Whoa! What? Mic drop. I know. Wives are not our property. Though it is weird, the Bible does say that we are one, The Bible does say, a husband will leave his parents, cling to his wife, and the two will be one.
Right? Does say that, yep.
But it doesn't say that the wife is the husband's property. It doesn't use that language.
Also doesn't say that they cease to be two separate human beings.
Right. But there is a oneness that happens in the marriage. It's almost like the two become different, new personalities, new characteristics through the marriage. So But stewardship is this idea and recognition, again, kind of more of a uniquely biblical term, or old world term, that it's not yours. It's been given to you to take care of and to look after, but ultimately belongs to somebody else. Who is that somebody else? Well, that's God, right? And again, this invokes worldview. Like, if you're your highest authority, then I guess maybe you would look at your marriage as like, well, I'm king, and this is my property, and I can do what I want with it. But as Christians, we don't function that way. I mean, hopefully we don't.
Yeah.
The idea is, as Christians, we look at stewardship and go, okay, God's in charge. Everything that I have belongs to God, including my relationships, including my marriage, including my wife. I belong to God.
Including my kids.
Well,
it's a
I
tough
don't know.
one.
Sometimes they're spawns of Satan. Nah, I'm kidding.
Wait, didn't you spawn your kids?
Yeah.
Crap.
You got me there.
Yeah.
So I like hammering home the stewardship idea, because it's saying, like, God, how do I take care of what is yours? How do I do that? And I think that when that is our perspective as husbands, we approach our marriage, I think, from a place of humility, a place of gentleness, a place of like, man, I really want to take care of this. It doesn't belong to me.
Sure.
I
was doing my quiet time earlier this week.
That's good. It
is good. It's not super consistent, but I'm getting there. And it was talking about kind of along those lines of stewardship and your spouse, your wife. And it was saying, have you ever thought about the fact that, like, what if you looked at God as your father-in-law? And like, how would that change things? If you
it would change a lot.
had that same relationship and you took care of her in the same way, like you got to answer to God for his daughter that you're married to. And I think that kind of, at least for me, brings home that concept of what you're saying a little more tangible.
Yeah.
Because I do understand the dynamics of interacting with my father-in-law here on earth, and kind of that responsibility and weight or whatever of that responsibility.
Right. That's actually a really good illustration, because I would be, in a lot of ways, throughout the course of my marriage, maybe it's only been within the last 3 to 5 years that I felt like I've actually stewarded my marriage well. I have to still answer for the other 10 years. I'd be terrified.
I feel like I'm just figuring out that my 15th year, It's ridiculous. I'm a slow learner.
But a sexy learner.
Well, thank you.
You used it earlier, so.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe there's not much more to say on that particular point, but I feel like these two things are worth trying to constantly understand as husbands and trying to constantly become better at. There's one thing that you said to me when I got into guns, and I'm going to try and connect these two statements.
All right, good luck.
Thank you. Because you're in the military, you have to spend a decent amount of time doing training. And you said, marksmanship or using a gun is a perishable skill. And I was like, never really heard that term before. But I think, like, as I spent some time thinking about it, I was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like, if you're just not doing it, you kind of just lose the skill.
Right. It's not like riding a bike. Like, you may get really good, but if you stop doing it, that skill is gonna atrophy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the same could be said for, I don't know, sports or whatnot.
Sure, most things require skill. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think using that term perishable skill connects here with this application of protection and application of stewardship, in that if those terms are not like at the forefront of your mind, and it's not something that you're constantly bringing before God and you're active in applying those in your marriage on a daily basis, then your ability to be able to do those things in your marriage is it perishes. You kind of lose the ability to do it. Like, you could have some muscle memory and maybe one day accidentally do it, but if you just simply don't engage in it on a very vigilant, aware level, you're just not gonna do it.
Sure. So really, I mean, I like that. I like that parallel. I haven't really thought about it in that regard. But essentially, like, you have to practice at your marriage.
Yeah.
You've got to practice cultivating your wife and pursuing her. It's not just going to happen by itself. Well, if you don't do it, that relationship's going to suffer.
Right. So you and I recently went to the gun range, right? And we were at the rifle range. We're both firing our AR-15s, and I mean a lot that I still don't know. And you were firing at a target 100 yards away. I was firing at a target 50 yards away. I fired probably like 40 rounds, and we weren't using any scopes or anything like that. We're both using iron sights, you know. And out of the 40 rounds, I maybe had 10 rounds actually hit somewhere on the target. 10, like, whatever that ratio is. But
1/4.
1/4. I'm not good at math. But if I want to get better at having tighter groupings, what is that? What do I have to do?
Practice.
I got to go practice.
Yep. Well, zeroing it would help, but then practice.
Well, so even with zeroing means I'm intentionally putting time into it.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
I got to go practice if I want to make better groupings and just be a better marksman. Now, granted, going out shooting guns does take time away from family and stuff like that, so the likelihood of me becoming a better marksman within this next year.
Hey, but you're able to protect your family from external threats.
Boom!
Boom, full circle.
My AR. Oh, man, too good. I like how you just brought that back. That was really good. So, the point is, stewardship and protection requires active work, and it requires honing and refining that skill like anything somewhat complex and complicated. So, I don't know. That's kind of all I have.
Yeah, this is a much better episode than I was expecting. Just pulling it out of our asses. It's good. Good job.
I just pulled it right out of our ass.
Just right out.
Both out of our
That's gross. Yeah, hopefully I got something out of it. Hopefully our listeners did too.
I did too. I got something out of it. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I'm just ready for bed.
Ready for bed? You were up early.
It's 4:30.
Oh, man. Well, okay.
As the sun goes down.
I do want to make a general, I do want to say a general thank you to everybody that's reached out to us and continues to support us. We're not supported financially yet, but if you want to, we are more than happy to accept your dollars.
We will not reject it.
But in the meantime, we do operate a very successful YouTube channel. Not really. But we'd like to make it successful. It's not because of Christian. It's because of, he does a good job with video.
What does successful mean?
Successful means more views.
20 followers.
More views,
20
more
views
follows. So what I'm getting at here, people, is spread the word. Send our channel to friends. Send our posts to people. Send our podcasts to your church groups. We'll try and keep the cussing to a minimum.
We'll try.
So far, we've only said 1 or 2 cuss words today.
And they're minor cuss words.
Yeah, they're like white lies, right? Instead of big lies. We would love your support, continual support. Subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, all the things.
Send us messages, DMs. Send us emails. At the very least, it makes us feel like people are paying attention, and we want to keep doing this.
I mean, I'd do this even if we weren't recording it, but that's just me.
There we go. I would too, honestly, because you're a good-looking guy.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I like our conversations.
I do too. We love you. We care about you. We want to see churches get healthy. We want to see men become husbands and husbands become fathers. And we want to see the family thrive. And we want to see Jesus glorified in every single father-led, husband-led family and marriage. So with that said, we're going to sign off. We might get this episode out after Thanksgiving, or before. So happy
Thanksgiving's next week, bro.
Happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas.
Yes, depending on when that comes out, you use whatever's applicable when you're listening to this.
We're not saying happy holidays because here we believe in the holiday that we're celebrating, which is Christmas, birth of Jesus, birth of baby Jesus.
Baby Jesus, 8 pound, 9 ounce, baby Jesus.
8 pound, 9 ounce, baby Jesus. Till next time. Arrivederci.
We're Italian now, apparently.